Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done a tutorial over here on YouTube, so I am back. Going to start by doing a canine tutorial, a dog, but I will do some wildlife pieces in the upcoming future as well. They're not going to be as common as my tutorials were previously, but yeah, I'm really excited to get another tutorial up. So we're going to be focusing on this Dobermann. I've chosen this picture because we've got the transitions between the dark fur and obviously the lighter black fur. So it's how to create that look of a black dog whilst keeping the fur sort of lighter, as well as the transitions into the rust colours. I've had requests on how to get those really smooth transitions. Also in this piece, I've removed the collar from the reference photo for the drawing in particular. So I want to show you just kind of how I go about tackling something like that. This reference photo is from Pixabay. I will have a link to it down below in the description. And I am drawing this on Fabriano. The size, I will have it all in the information for you, but let me grab my ruler. We are about 9 inches wide to about 9.5 inches tall, so not a huge piece, nice and almost square like, but yeah, we're gonna get started. So as I said, everything you'll need will be listed in the description below. It'll be on my website as well. In the tutorial tab you'll have all the information there. What we're going to do is make a start on the eyes in this part, and go from there. So I'll zoom us in, I'll stop waffling, and we'll get going. Okay, so I'm going to start with the left eye, and I'm taking my dark sepia, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to outline the shape of the eye. Very light pressure here. Now I am not removing any of the graphite lines because this area is going to get quite dark. If it was lighter toned areas, I would come in and remove those graphite lines. I also apologise if you hear any banging. We've got really high winds again here as I'm filming. Okay, so this is obviously that darker part that the eye is set in, because here is the highlighted area, and then it's also curving around down here. Again, just nice light pressure as you build up your colours. There's a lot of colours in these eyes, which is really nice to try and capture. Now, for those that have done my tutorials before, I normally use just the Polychromos because my Patreon only uses the Polychromos. I am going to use different pencils in this one. I'm not going to go crazy, but I do want to kind of use more pencils on the YouTube tutorials, and then anybody who wants to use just Polychromos, you can head to my Patreon channel. I've just this month's tutorials have just gone out, so we're doing a Labrador, black shiny Labrador as our full tutorial, and our focus tutorial is a horse eye but in monochrome, so just using our warm greys and the black pencil. Okay, so what I've done is I've just brought in a bit of the darker part of the eye there that I can see. Okay, so now we want to start from the lightest colour that we can see in this eye to the darkest. So I want to start off with a little bit of my burnt ochre. So what I'm going to do, we've got to remember that this is a sphere, you know, eyes are 3D. So we want to just be kind of curving our line up. Very light pressure as I'm doing this. As we come over this side of his eye, it's a bit more greeny and greeny blue tone, so I'm not going to bring that burnt ochre all the way over, but we want to bring it in a little bit here. I also want to bring in a little bit of the burnt sienna. This will just darken this up really nicely. So again, nice light pressure. So with this piece, I'm going to try and get once a week again part of this tutorial out. But I'm trying not to give myself too much time pressure. I have a lot going on at the moment. But yeah, hopefully, if I can film, you know, more often, then I will release them as often as I can, so that you've got new parts to do with this guy. What I'm after now is my burnt umber. If I'd have been more organised, I would have had all these pencils out ready to go. But we want our burnt umber and our walnut brown. So with the burnt umber, this is going to be the darkest colour that we've got. So, well, one of the darker colours that we've got. So I'm coming in along the edge here, and again just flicking and blending that outwards like so. Okay. And then that walnut brown as well, which will just help transition into those darker tones that we're going to have going on. Got like a bluish tone there. Okay, I'm thinking I want one of my Luminance pencils. And the one that I am after is this one, which is the, hang on, let me just get it in the light, French Grey 30%. I just need to sharpen it. So this is, as I said, the Caran Luminance Payne's Grey 30%. And I'm just going to bring this in and curve it around here. So this is going to bring in that nice sort of grey tone that we've got going on pretty much the rest of the eye. This greyish blue, green, all the colours. So I'm just doing very light base layer there. I'm going to go back to that walnut brown. So I'm trying not to make the paper move. Walnut brown. Because this section here is darker, and then just lightening that pressure as it blends outwards. And then I do want to bring in that green colour, so I want my olive green yellowish. This is, whoops, one of my favourite green tones to use in eyes. I find that it just works really well. And again, I'm following that curvature of the eye as it comes along, or as it goes around here. And then I'm going to take my Payne's Grey. So with the Payne's Grey, I'm coming in along the bottom of this eye. It's nice and sharp pencil point here. Coming in. And this is again going to blend outwards. And you'll see as we start to darken up these areas, this eye will really start to pop. Okay, and just bringing in where I can see these darker blue tones. Just bringing in that Payne's Grey, but then also blending down and into the eye. Because we want it all, especially on eyes, you want them to look really blended and smooth. And then I'm just going to come in this darker section with the Payne's Grey as well, because I don't particularly like going in with straight black. I like having colours underneath my black, so, and I feel like that's what I need. I need some blue tones here. And again, just lightening that pressure as we go up and around the eye. Going to take the dark sepia again, and we're just going to blend into that Payne's grey down here. Okay, so you can see how it's just starting to really start to come together now. Going back in with the French grey 30%. So this part is now just about blending and layering until I am happy with the amount, or with how the eye itself is looking. The olive green yellowish again. And you'll see that I do tend to just go back and forth until I've built up the colour, the Payne's grey, how I want it to look. Obviously with the Fabriano, the more layers we add as well, the easier, not easier, the more the grain sort of disappears. It has got a nice tooth to it, which allows a lot of layers. I do hope to do some different paper types as well, so like drafting film. I really like drafting film, and I like to use obviously the Fabriano. I'm just taking the silver grey from the Caran Luminance now. So this is the silver grey, it's just in a pencil extender. Just going to cover this highlighted area. So I never leave these highlights pure white, because they never are. There's always some kind of colour reflecting. And I'm just going to bring it down into this section of the eye as well. Very light pressure there. You can see I've not pressed very firmly at all. And then if I take my coal grey free, and I'm just going to come into this section. I know this eye is quite small and I'm going in with quite a lot of detail and colour, but I always seem to do with eyes. I really like them to yeah, have a lot going on. Okay, the Payne's grey. Again, just flicking up here. And then we want a lighter blue tone, so I'm going to take I'm just looking, light ultramarine. And along this edge as well. Okay, and the coal grey free. And then you can blend that highlight again with the silver grey from the Luminance, Caran Luminance. Going back to my burnt umber. And then the burnt sienna. And then I think as well, I just want to bring in a little bit of depth in that blue section here. So this is the dark indigo. Back to the, this is the walnut brown. Again, I'm just trying to get everything. Can you see how it's all starting to like look smooth and blended? And then something that I like to do with eyes is take the Caran Luminance Buff Titanium, and all I'm going to do is just kind of follow this sort of curved shape and just very lightly bring in that Buff Titanium, and I find it just kind of adds a little glint to the eye, which helps it look like it is glassy. And then I'm going to take the black and just in these darker parts. So I always do the black at the end. flicking that up again because I want to be able to blend it really nicely. Okay, the Payne's Grey, I just want to blend it down here, and then this line under here, which is quite dark, is also more blue toned, so that's why I'm sticking with the Payne's Grey. And then again, just blending outwards there. Going to take the Walnut Brown in this section. Blending it out again. So when I say blending it out, I'm just lightening my pressure so that, again, it does get a smooth transition. And then, whoops, the dark sepia for the dark point. Using the dark sepia because it's got that browner tone rather than like the black or the Payne's Grey. Okay, I'm then going to take the Venetian red, and we're taking the Venetian red because we've got this sort of reddish toned area here. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to come in with my kneadable eraser, or your putty eraser, and lift here. Okay, I'm coming in. Very light pressure, as you can see. I don't want to press too firmly yet. Just want to bring in the hint of the red tone. Could also just take that burnt sienna because it does have that reddish colour, just to deepen up some of those areas. And also the burnt umber, which will help with the transition into the skin around the eye, or the fur around the eye. Again, just blending it out. So hopefully you can see, like, look at how smooth we've made this eye. And I know it's quite small, and I've got a lot of detail and colour in there. Back to the Venetian red. And then you can take something like your pink white from the Caran Luminance to help smooth this out. When you use the Luminance on your Fabriano, it really creates a nice smooth and buttery effect. I mean, they're very smooth pencils anyway, but I do find that, yeah, it really helps. And then I'm just gonna, actually I'm gonna take that buff titanium, the pink white, sorry, into this little highlight that we've left here. So we've still got a highlight, but we've added that colour. And then again, just taking that dark sepia to just build up the depth again, either side of the highlight. Burnt umber. Okay, and that is like the actual eye itself. So with the sorry, excuse me, the skin around it, I am going to start with the coal grey one, and I'm just going to come in firm pressure, but again I'm not pressing too hard because we want to be able to create more layers. So I'm just going to come in very lightly around part of this eye. I'm not going to do too much because obviously I want to get the other eye drawn in. But I find by just adding some of the area around the eye, it sets the eye in place. Sorry, I was just focusing. It sets the eye in place, and then you've got a nice sort of base to work from in the next part. Also going to take that silver grey from the Caran Luminance to help smooth out this area. Again, you can lift that graphite. I probably should have lifted the graphite with my putty eraser. Okay, I'm going to take the Payne's Grey, just flicking out from this area under the eye. Like so. And then I'm also wanting my sepia 10% from the Caran Luminance. So the sepia 10% I really love. I feel like it's such a gorgeous colour to use. It's like this purpley grey. You could also use the violet grey, but I love the sepia 10%. And again, I'm just blending any areas where I can see this sort of purpley grey colour. I'm just coming in. And what I'm doing is we're looking for those lightest colours. So we're building up from the lightest, the cold grey one and the silver grey, to our darker tones, which will obviously blend once we come in with the black fur. This area is quite light around the eye, but it's always the same. I'm always looking for my lighter colours first and then building up from there. Blending, always trying to get a smooth blend as well, so constantly lots of blending. So you can see there's a lot of this sort of purplish colour going in to this eye. Okay, I am then going to take the cold grey free, and we're just going to start to, again, very light pressure above this eye here. We've got a little bit of fur coming in, so I'm just going to start to bring in the depth a little bit here. Following, so as you can see, I'm following that curvature because we're starting to get into the fur, so we want to be following that fur direction and the curves within this area. I feel as well I want the warm grey free, so coming in with the warm grey free, and again I'm using light pressure and following this kind of curvature over the eye. We've got to remember that everything that we're drawing when it comes to the fur, we're drawing the structure of the animal. Underneath all of this is always that structure. So that's kind of what we're capturing. So that's why I'm constantly kind of trying to capture that look. Okay, back to the cold grey free. Actually, I'm just going to take the Payne's Grey, and again just coming from this eye and blending over that black. Just want to get a bit of a softer edge here with the Payne's Grey, and also I want the Caput Mortuum. Just going to take the Caput Mortuum and blend. There's like this reddish tone, reddish pinkish tone here. You could also take the Venetian red just so it kind of matches in. I'm just going to blend that down a little bit there. So again, coming in with that cold grey free, just going to darken this section. Like so, and that coal grey, one grey free. And then I'm just going to take the pink white, because it has got a little hint of a pinkish tone, and I'm just going to come in and just blend over. Now this will obviously look a little bit darker once we come in with the surrounding fur. This is the coal grey free. Again, I just want to get a little bit of this drawn in. Actually, maybe we'll just keep going with the fur around this eye. Do it a different way. Okay, so this is still, as I said, the coal grey free. I'm going to take that warm grey free as well, so everything is about this nice balance of all these different shades. And I'm not looking for one pencil to get the correct colour. I like to mix and blend my colours to create that effect that I'm after. I don't like to just go in with one colour. And I know this might seem quite slow and tedious, but this is just how, obviously, I like my work. Now, if you don't see these colours, that's fine. You know, you can go ahead and draw whatever colours you see. You could use different colours to what I'm using, because we all see colours differently. We all, you know, we all work differently. I just want to kind of show you how I approach a piece with the way that I want, obviously, my work to look. Okay, that coal grey free again. So by taking the coal greys over the warm greys, I'm getting this nice neutral base, a neutral looking grey tone. Okay, what I'm going to take now is my coal grey 5. So with the coal grey 5, I'm going to start bringing in this darker toned area here. So I want to just, again, follow that fur direction. Now, I'm not building up individual fur strokes. I'm just getting a base layer. So I'm toning the paper. We're getting those correct tones, the correct colour on the page before going through with our final detail layer. Again, I'm doing a flicking motion so that we're blending into that lighter toned area that we've just popped in. And as I'm building up this layer, you can see I'm not pressing too firmly, but I'm constantly looking back at the reference photo to build up the fur direction. Even with this base layer, I find that if I come through and start straight away with the base layers, following that fur direction, it just makes more sense, and it means that I'm just keeping an eye on, you know, what's happening, what's going on with the structure of this dog. Just again flicking in there. So again, you don't have to come in with those lighter greys as a base layer. Now, it's something that I definitely did when I first started out. I would go through kind of all the grey tones to create the base layers, and obviously over time I've realised I don't need to. I can come in with like the coal grey 5 as that base layer. Now we do have a bit of a blue, sorry, excuse me, a blue tone. So I'm going to take the dark indigo. Nice light pressure. Now, if you struggle with your pressure, hold the pencil higher up. If you hold the pencil higher up, you can't press as hard on the page with the pencil. But again, just nice light pressure because we've got this nice blue tone. So this is what I mean by like toning the page. We're building up all these colours that are being reflected in his fur. And we're building that up now. Earlier on in the process, rather than trying to like layer them on over once you've got your your darker colours down, because I find that it doesn't show up as well. And again, personal preference, I guess. Right, I'm just going to go back over. Actually, I'm going to take the Payne's grey. So any areas that are darker, again, I'm just building up the layers, and as I'm doing this, I have increased my pressure here because I want this to be dark. And this is covering most of this area actually with the Payne's grey, because it is obviously a darker set part of his face. What you can see me doing as well is I'm rotating the pencil so that I'm always using that sharp point. By using the sharp point, it's really going to get into those into the tooth of the paper. If you think about the tooth of the paper being like hills and valleys in a way, you're trying to get into all those little bits where you can see like the little bits of white. We're trying to cover all those little grainy bits, and then we can do that by constantly rotating the pencil and using the sharper point. I'm going to go back in with the Coal Grey 5. This is just going to help smooth this out, but also I'm just trying to transition into this area again. So blending and flicking out. I also like to use a lot of layers, especially on the Fabriano, because if I needed, not that I need to on this section, but if I needed to come through with the slice tool, by building up all your layers, it's easier for the slice tool to work on this paper, especially if you've got like the Luminance as a base layer. And this is also, I like to use a lot of layers because it means I don't have to press really firmly on the paper. A lot of people say, you have to press so hard on the Fabriano, but you don't. If you just take your time, build it up nice and slowly, you can get a really nice effect without having to press so hard. This is now the black, so this is our darkest colour. So just in this dark area. And now again, I don't want this harsh line, so I'm just going to flick it out and blend down. Now, because I've come in with the black, this is where I'm like rotating the pencil, but also coming through and adding some of the fur detail. So anywhere where I can see like the little bits of fur, that's when I'm going to start adding it in with the black pencil. And again, as I'm building up this layer, I'm following the fur direction. That bit's not as dark, so I'm going to come back in with the Payne's Grey. Firmer pressure, and again just flicking outwards. So hopefully you can see just how smooth we are getting everything. Okay, I'm just going to take that black again. If you find that this Polychromos black isn't strong enough, you can also take like the Caran Luminance or even the Derwent Drawing Black. That's a really deep black, but I find that with the Derwent Drawing Black, it's so soft and not hard, sorry, to get a really sharp point. Now I like obviously really sharp points on my pencils. The Cold Grey 5, because the sharper points allow me to get, you know, those really fine details. Just darkening this section up because it's not dark enough. And then again, Cold Grey 3. Just going to take that Cold Grey 4 and again just blending. Lots of blending, as you can tell, but hopefully you can see now just how soft we can make this fur look. Okay, so again, I'm just going to come in with the sepia 10%. Let me just lift some of this graphite because I don't want it to shine through. So sepia 10%, and again following that fur direction. Okay, I'm going to take the Cold Grey. Let me start with the Cold Grey 4. I may end up going darker, but when in doubt, start with a lighter colour. Okay, and then I'm going to take the Warm Grey 3 just so we can blend again, get that smooth transition. And you'll see that this just starts to smooth out that base layer. Really nicely. As well, I'm just going to grab another Luminance pencil, and it is the Payne's Grey at 30%, and this is going to bring in that really nice bluish tone. I'm going to use this very lightly because I want that sepia to be a little bit more prevalent, but still want a hint of this blue. And then the Coal Grey 5, let me just sharpen mine. So again, I'm just going to flick, oops, with the Coal Grey 5, and you'll see now just how this really starts, really starting to bring that fur in around the eye, which is really starting to make this eye pop and look like it's obviously set in place. Flicking up there so that we get, again, those smooth blends. Because I want this to stay quite a neutral looking colour, I'm also going to take the Warm Grey 5. And again, just coming in. Using that sharp edge, and it's just starting to bring in some of the details. Just going to go back to that Warm Grey 3, doing circular motions here just to keep it smooth. And then that Coal Grey 5, again, I'm just trying to get that blend here because it's not as soft as I would like it. Could also take the sepia 10%. And again, this will just, if I do circular motions, it'll just help soften and smooth that out. This is the Coal Grey 3. Just blend in. I'm just going to take that walnut brown. I just want to darken that section here a little bit more now. So sometimes I do, you know, go back and forth in those areas once I've added in other colours, because I realise that I can go darker. And this is the Coal Grey one. Like so. Okay, I'm going to take the Coal Grey 3 as a base layer. Again, I'm just going to lift that graphite. I always find as well these beginning stages, I'm kind of, it takes me a little longer to get into the flow with the fur because I'm kind of figuring out, you know, what's going on, what colours do I need to use, and I always find like the first hour or two I'm definitely a bit slower because I'm not 100% sure, I guess, on like the colours that is needed and the colours that obviously I want to use. I'm going to go in with the Warm Grey 3. So don't worry, you know, it doesn't matter how quick you get pieces done, how slow you may think you are. Everything comes together in your own time. So just take as long as you need. And then I'm also just going to go over with the sepia 10% again. Just along this top edge and then lightly blend it. So lighten my pressure here. And then the Coal Grey 4. Again, I'm following the fur direction. It's something that I will always say. Fur direction and making sure that we get these contrasts, so our dark's dark and our light's light. That's why I like to just, you know, slow down, take our time. And especially on the Fabriano, like, it is such a forgiving paper. You can do so much with this paper. Okay, and then I've got the Payne's Grey. And we're just going to start to come in and again add some details. This is the point where, like, if the paper feels so smooth and buttery in the hand, because I've built up, you know, all those layers. Just also going to take the Payne's Grey 30% from the Caran Luminance, adding that nice blue hue that we can see, and then back to the Payne's Grey over the top. Flicking, that flicking motion is what's going to sort of, you know, help you blend all these pieces together. Not, well, pieces, all these colours. And then that coal grey 4 again. Just going to go back in with my black. I do find sometimes that the black Polychromos can lighten, so sometimes you do just have to kind of go back in and over. So you probably are better off like using something like the Caran black. This is the coal grey 4. Again, just darkening. These areas up. Oh, that wind is getting really strong out there. Okay, I'm going to go back in with the coal grey 3 at the top of this part of the eye now. And just again, a little eyebrow there. Kind of flicking into what's going to be this sort of red, the rust eyebrow. And I will, in the next part, we will blend, you know, into those areas, I think. Maybe, we'll see. I always say that and then I end up wanting to draw somewhere else. It kind of depends. I feel like maybe we'll get the ears in and then work our way across. Just with it being, obviously, a black dog, I find that the black... this is the Payne's Grey 30% again. You don't want to... you want to get your areas sort of left to right if you're right-handed, because it can lift. I do find the black pencil can lift. No matter what surface I use, I find it's just not... It's a bit more smudgy, I guess. Then we're going to take the coal grey 4. You could probably use that Payne's Grey 30% as a base layer on its own. You may not actually need to come in, you know, with your Polychromos as a base layer. I think it's just kind of habit from the Patreon tutorials. The coal grey 5. And again, I'm following that fur direction here. And then the coal grey 4 again. Just to blend, and then I'm also just going to take that the Payne's Grey, sorry. Okay. Blending out from that darker toned area. This is all about, as I say, keeping it looking nice and smooth. We want to be capturing the, you know, the feel of the fur, the texture of the fur, so we want it to look as smooth as we can get it. Blending again with the Coal Grey 4. And I'm just going to take that Payne's Grey again, because this area is dark. So I just want to darken this bottom edge a little bit more. Flicking outwards, so when I'm flicking, lifting that pencil off the page to help create that flick and that blend here. You could also take your light ultramarine to bring in a little bit more of that bluish tone. In those areas. If I take the Coal Grey 5, Coal Grey 5, sorry. Again, I'm just going to lift that graphite. So this is that darker toned area. Get this bit mapped in and then I'll probably stop. I'm going to try and keep them to like an hour. I do find an hour's long enough for each part, and we've got a nice section started. You know, next part we can start on blending into the brown, and then keep going around this side of his head. But if you do have any questions, you know, on what we've done so far, do leave them down below. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed already, I would really appreciate it. Subscribing really does help out. A lot. I'm going to take the Warm Grey 5. And yeah, I'm really excited to do this tutorial along with you all. I know it's been a while since I've done one here on YouTube. Most of my tutorials are on Patreon. Obviously you get a tutorial every month. But I will every now and then try and do one here because I know not everybody can subscribe. I'm going to take the Payne's Grey. Actually, am I going to take the Payne's Grey? Yeah, no, we'll take the Payne's Grey. Because it is going to be dark. That isn't even the Payne's Grey. That was the dark indigo, which is not what I wanted. This is the Payne's Grey. Coal Grey 4 or the Coal Grey 5, whichever one you've grabbed. The black, again just doing that flicking motion so that it all blends. And then back to the Payne's Grey. You can see I'm doing as well short pencil strokes, short fur. If it was longer fur, I would be doing longer pencil strokes. And then that Coal Grey 5. Just going to keep hold of the just going to go in with the Coal Grey 3. Might as well just try and get a little bit around this marking. I'm going to go with the warm grey 3 because I feel we've got a bit of a warmer tone here. So I'm slightly blending. The Payne's Grey 30% from the Caran Luminance. And then the Coal Grey 4. Now this area I'll probably need to change once we bring in a larger section, but you can see where his little eye rusted area is going to go. Taking that Coal Grey 5 because we need to blend out from here. And also the Payne's Grey. Let me make sure I get the correct pencil because this area here is quite dark. Just flicking and then taking, I'm going to take the warm grey 3 here just to blend and smooth that out. Okay, and I think for the first part we shall leave it there. We've got quite a bit done actually. I know there's a lot of blending, there's a lot of detail going on. This is just the Coal Grey 4. Actually, I want the Coal Grey 5. Yeah, there's a lot of detail, there's a lot of blending, and it is going to be quite, you know, repetitive. But if you don't have the same colours as me, that's fine. If you're working on different paper, different size, that is, you know, completely fine. Just work with whatever you have. Any questions, as I said, do leave them below and I will do my best to answer you. But I hope you're enjoying this one. I'm excited to be doing tutorials again back here on YouTube. This is the light ultramarine. And yeah, I will see you all. So in the next part, we're definitely going to get that red rust eyebrow bit marked in. And I think we might work our way up to the ear, do the ear and then come across. I think that's going to be the best plan. So yeah, let me zoom you out so you can see what he's looking like. Okay, so this is where we got to with our Dobermann. So we've got one eye and some of the fur in around the eye. So it definitely looks better when you add a bit of fur. So yeah, as I said, any questions, leave them down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Everything you'll need, materials, the colours used in this part will be listed below in the description box as well. And I will see you all in the next part. Bye everybody.